Maybe you are a leader. Maybe you are a woman in leadership. Maybe you are a man in leadership. Are you at the point where you are needing to make a decision about something, and you know that you are hesitating on making that decision? I want to share with you today why it's so incredibly important for you to not hesitate. Now, I completely understand when you have to make very calculated decisions, especially as a woman in leadership. You have to do that. But there comes a point in time when you have to make that high stakes decision. And in this video, I'm going to share with you why a lot of times people will tend to struggle with making those very high stakes decisions that will ultimately change their lives. And I want to give you a story that happened with me, specifically with my business, in terms of when I had to make a decision that was at the worst possible time, and how that decision decided to impact me and change how I operate now as a business owner. If you're new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta, and this channel heavily focuses on advanced communication skills and strategies to help you be able to master confident and concise communication under pressure. If you are a woman in leadership, this is the last day that I am offering my 6-year anniversary business promotion of some of the services on my website at exciteexcellence.org. One of the biggest services that will completely transform your life is the high stakes communication intensive. You definitely want to have this if you are going to be in a very highly visible role. It will completely change your life. Take a look at the website and take a look at that. I want to say hello to Cat 23rd. Hello, Cat. Cat says, "Hey, Doc, heart in 100. Thank you for being here, Cat. I appreciate you." Now, let's talk about high stakes decisions. So a lot of times people will hesitate on making decisions for various reasons. So in the comments, let me know, what are some of the reasons why you tend to hesitate on making decisions? What are they? I'll give you a couple of insights. I can share with you personally what's happened to me before in terms of why I hesitated on making those very high stakes decisions. And let's talk about how you cannot make those mistakes. Sometimes leaders, when you're in a leadership role, you may defer on making a high stakes decision because there's not enough data to make the decision. And this is normal. This is a part of the process of becoming a leader. You have to be able to think in a more strategic way so that you can make the best informed decision with the information that you have. So there may be times where you actually do need to delay because you do not have all of your data together just yet. However, if that's the case, then you need to be very expeditious in trying to obtain that data. It can't be something that you're just waiting on. Well, I'll wait to see if they contact me, or I'll wait to find out. You need to find that information as quickly as possible so that you can actually make those decisions. Now, the second reason why I see a lot of leaders hesitate in making those very high stakes decisions is because of fear. Oftentimes when we are in those pivotal moments in our careers, whether we're transitioning to a new role or a new industry, or we are finishing our education programs, we're starting a business, we're running for a public office, when we're making those big decisive movements, there is a significant amount of fear that comes over us because we are feared of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to work out. And sometimes that fear can truly hesitate you. Another time I see this happen also is when people are making an investment in themselves, in their businesses, in their homes, or etc. There is that fear of the unknown. A lot of times when I work with my clients, there's always a sense of, how is this going to work? How can this work out for me? And I will tell you, my clients are very happy once we work together. And this is the same thing that happens a lot of times with anything you have in your life where you have to put a monetary investment to it. There is sometimes a fear of investing in ourselves, whether it's professional development, personal development, financial development, whatever. Sometimes there's that fear where we are afraid of what's going to happen if we take this risk. But I will tell you, you have to learn how to take risk if you are truly going to be that leader that stands out from everybody else. I want to go into the chat really quickly. Cat 23rd says, overthinking the aftermath of your decision can lead to hesitation. It can. I want to say hello to Mafia Gamers 6419, and you are from India. Welcome, friend. How you doing today? Okay, Kat, let's go into that. Kat, that's a really great insight as always, friend. I appreciate that. Overthinking the aftermath of your decisions can lead to hesitation. That is exactly what will lead to hesitation. And oftentimes, that overthinking process, there is some fear that is associated with that. There is something that we are overthinking. And why do we overthink? Let's go deeper. Let's go into a executive coaching type of scenario. Why do we overthink? Why do we overthink? We overthink because there is an aspect of this decision that we are trying to make that we simply do not know how it's going to work out. That's where faith comes into play. And as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a business owner, you need a lot of faith, because there's a lot of decisions that you're going to have to make that you simply are not going to be able to see your way out of it. Now, you want to gather as much data as you can, okay? You have to have as much information as you can. You can't make decisions based off of nothing. But that overthinking comes into play when we are trying to make logic sense of a situation or an aspect of a situation that doesn't make sense. And that can lead to you hesitating in making that decision that you need to make as a leader. All right, so we have MD Saludane. Hello, welcome, welcome. MD says, where are you from? I am from the United States. I'm based out of the Sunshine State of Florida. Cat 23 says, we may also overthink because we are perfectionists. We want everything to go 100% all the time. Cat, that's perfect. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, and I appreciate you mentioning that. Okay, so Kat brought up a really great point too. So there's the overthinking part, and there's the fear that comes into making those high stakes decisions when you are in a leadership role or something you're dealing with or navigating specifically. Now, there is the perfectionist that comes into play also. How many times have you all encountered or worked with someone that appears to be a perfectionist? Like, they have to have everything perfect. It can't be perfect if it's not the way that they do it, or etc. Let me know in the comments below. But Kat brings up a really good point. Perfectionism can cause you to hesitate also, and it can cause you to not make those decisions, because sometimes people will say, I gotta wait for the perfect time for me to launch this part of my career, or the perfect time for me to launch a business, or the perfect time for me to run for an office, or the perfect time for me to make this career change. And I will tell you, a lot of times it's not a perfect time. There's not a perfect time whatsoever. Now, I'll tell you my personal story, what happened to me in terms of making a decision in my business that really was at the worst time. And I was in the middle of wrapping my vehicle. And if you all don't know what a wrap is, that means you're putting some type of logo, decal document on your vehicle to wrap it. You can see vehicles wrapped in business information. You can see vehicles wrapped in solid colors. There's a whole lot of things that go with wrapping a vehicle. And I will share with you that the time when I was wrapping my truck last year, I had my business logo, which was a mountain for those of you who have maybe been with me for a long time. Thank you for the heart emojis. I had my business logo, which was a mountain for about 5 years of my business. And I have a story, I will say, I'm going to do specifically, or a video rather, that talks about the wrapping process and what happened to me specifically. And oftentimes you may encounter those delays that happen in your life, and you may think those delays are going to be issues specifically. And those delays may actually be the blessing in disguise that prevent you from making a really bad decision. So what happened to me specifically is that I was in a situation where I was already in the middle of wrapping my vehicle. I had my logo, which was a mountain at the time. And I had this intuitive thought that I needed to change. I felt like I had, as a business owner, outgrown my current brand and my logo. And at the design phase, I was already in the process of having my vehicle wrapped. There's a whole design process. I'm going to go over that in the video when I do my car wrapping video. And I thank you for the heart emojis. But I literally was in the middle of the design process and about to schedule the wrap of my vehicle. And I just said, you know what? I need to change the logo. Now, if you've ever designed a vehicle, or you've ever designed your brand, or whatever the case may be, you know, when there's a certain point where we're not going back, where you can't go backwards. And I was already at that point. And I made that very high stakes decision, and I decided that, you know what, I want to change my logo because I have outgrown what my mountain was before. Initially, my mountain was representative of us as individuals, specifically I specialize with women in leadership, but it's always climbing some form of a mountain in our lives, whether it's personal, professional, and that's the reason why I had the mountain. But I decided to transition my logo to the image of the woman that you see now. One, I helped design that logo intensely, and I knew what I wanted the logo to be, but I wanted it to be representative of a woman that was a woman that had no racial identity. It was just a woman. And so if you look at my logo, you'll see aspects of that. But I knew I needed to make that change, and I was not even at the point I even had a new logo. And so I had to make that decision and stop specifically at that point in time to say, you know what, I have to make this decision. Even though this is the hardest time, the worst time, I have to make the decision. I could have overthought it, and I could have said, well, I'm not going to worry about it, or I could have waited for my logo to be completely perfect. I could have did all of that, right? I could have did all of that, and I still would have not made that decision, and my vehicle probably wouldn't be wrapped. Now, you go through the design process, and as I mentioned, I'll go through a lot of this because I know many of you are aspiring to have your own businesses and do something similar to myself, where maybe you are at an employer and you're working on your business in your free time. But I will do a video on that. But I wanted to give you an insight in terms of a big decision I had to make. And literally, I was at the scheduling time for my vehicle, and I had to call Robert from Car Wrap Solutions. They're amazing, by the way, here in Florida. And I had to tell him, I need to change my logo. I need a little bit of time. And he was very, very, very gracious to say, take the time you need. And I literally took a significant amount of time before I finished up with my logo. So being decisive is a part of leadership, and knowing when you have to make those critical moments, those critical decisions, and move forward in anyways is very, very important. Many people struggle with this. Many women in leadership struggle with this. Men struggle with this too. That indecisiveness will cost you much needed ground in your career, and it will cause you to slow down. It'll cause you to delay. It'll cause you not to grow, which is one of the reasons why I'm advocating so much to support women in leadership, specifically with the promotion that I have going on this ending today. All right, Kat says, shout out to you, Doc. Heart and a trophy. Well, thank you, Kat. I appreciate that. So I hope that gives you some insight in terms of reasons why people sometimes struggle with decisions. There's usually some type of fear associated with it. Kat mentioned some really great insights in terms of overthinking, perfectionism that comes out a lot of times, and a big portion of it is the unknown. We just don't know how things are going to work out. But I encourage you that when you have those moments where you feel just like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work out, sometimes those are going to be the very best decisions that you ever will make in your life. That comes to career decisions, that comes to investment decisions, that comes to anything. So I will see you all in the next video, and we'll be live later this evening. We'll talk a bit more about a couple other topics, and I look forward to talking to you then. Kat says, the trophy means you are a winner, which obviously, Doc, you are. Heart. Well, thank you, Kat. I appreciate that, friend. And you are a winner for being here. You're in college. You're doing what you have to do to make those big changes that I know you're going to do in your career. So I appreciate you all being here today, and I will see you all in the next